10 years old, Ex Machina. Alex Garland's Ex Machina.
Now, that is a beauty of a film. It's one that blew me away upon viewing. I remember hearing about it from you, and you know when you're convinced, but you're not convinced. Like, you're convinced to give it a watch, but how good it is always down to your own personal judgment. Absolutely blown away by this story of a man who's essentially being brought on as a work apprentice of sorts with this big high-tech man, and he starts to learn of 𝒃𝒑, this artificial intelligence being who starts to show that she might not be it's like the strings have been cut from this puppet, essentially, and so the story begins.
I always appreciate movies which can tell a really compelling story in a single isolated location, and this movie does that with shining colors. It's basically just three actors. You've got Donald Gleeson, Oscar Isaac, and my girl Alicia Vikander, who plays 𝒃𝒑, and every single actor has come to play in this movie. And like with a lot of these artificial intelligence movies, it does attempt to ask and answer the big questions of what is it that makes us human? Is there our ability to think autonomously? Is it the human soul? Is it our ability to think independently? All of these quite profound questions that various AI movies answer with different degrees of success. But the interplay between what is artificial intelligence and what is human really does shine in this movie, and that for me is one of the reasons why it's such a huge success.
No doubt. It's the questions that come with it, and it's the way it provides the hypotheses, essentially, the little elements that will put the question into question. You know, she's capable of doing this, she wants to do this, she has responded in this way. Is that life? Even though it's not the organic life of any human being or animal, this bit of machinery is now doing this. But because it's machinery, does that remove life because the thought process remains the same? The patterns be there. You know, even elements of fear of I'm doing this and I'm scared to show you this. Like, these are all human emotions. So is she therefore not living? It has those moments, the elements of suspense that happens, and the level of trust that becomes there. Are you trusting the man who invited you, or are you inviting the machine who's telling you XYZ? The elements of proof that comes with the statements that's being there. And it's really of, I know I'm being lied to, but I don't know who's lying to me. And furthermore, I should only trust one because the other's incapable of really being able to convince me. Such a beautiful story. And time be the judge on this. Another thing I love with it is, based on the success that it's had and the way it's been told, they've kept it as one. There is no talks about Ex Machina 2 or anything like that. It's an isolated story, and so should it stay. And let it be marked down that in a time capsule, I will not regret it. I'm not saying that if they make a second it wouldn't be good, but I don't feel the need for it. I think it would be a disservice to the film to create a second.
It's one of those films I don't think needed a second. That it had an almost Inception-esque ending of her going off by herself and trying to figure out, and the audience left trying to figure out, well, how is she going to make it without any energy supply? And that for me, I thought was one of the most powerful parts of it, because you're essentially saying, well, has she made the autonomous decision that she'd rather live a little bit under her own rules of engagement towards life and have the decision that she's going to die on her terms, as opposed to just being powered down? It was all wonderfully powerful. The effects are also fantastic. Like, I appreciate it's essentially, if we're pulling the curtain back, it's essentially Alicia Vikander wrapped in a green screen for 2 hours. I'd rather her.
Hey, but let's not mock her emotion. Let's not discount her emotion. She plays into the. I'll go with Cyborg very well. She gives you those emotions, and it's weird to be a human playing machine trying to copy a human. Yeah. Those slight movements that will give you enough to be like, so she's not human, but she moves well for a android being a human. I know it sounds a bit of a loop-de-loop there, guys, but I'm sure I hope you kept up with it.
Yeah, and you know, they build on that. You know, there's a scene where you can tell that Donald Gleason's character is kind of falling for her. And Oscar Isaac kind of says, well, you can have sex with her if you want. I built a vagina for her. She's capable of getting wet, of having an orgasm, like... And that in itself just adds another layer to the whole... Well, okay, really, what is making the human aspect here? Is it just coming down to the human soul? Because the ability to think autonomously is there. The ability to have human physical reactions, such as an orgasm or, you know, getting wet. It's there. He's really not left a stone unturned as far as the storyline's concerned, as Oscar Isaac. And yeah, we're rambling here, but you're constantly in a loop of what is human and what is not. And much like the metaphor in that Hunchback of Notre Dame movie, who is the monster and who is the man? In this case, it's who is the robot and who is the human. 𝒃𝒐𝒄𝒃, despite being an android, displays so many more human characteristics of quality than either of the two men ever do throughout the movie. And that's, again, kind of part of the point. I think it's aged wonderfully. I do think the themes are timeless. I also think with the rise of AI, it's probably more relevant now than it's been in a very, very long time. I'm going to score Ex Machina 9 out of 10.
I'm pretty much on the same territory, to be honest with you. What takes it away from being a 10 out of 10? I'm not sure. It has, to pick at the faults would be pointless. It's not the perfect movie, but it's very close to. It's a very good watch. It's perfectly paced. It asks the right questions. It does what it needs to do at the right time.